cover negotiations with the several unions that we have to deal with. It represents approximately 1% of our salary budget. If we do not have the personnel on board in September, we cannot provide the programs that we feel are necessary for the students. We have to make the same kind of compromise that we were forced to make last September. I might also point out that without that $70,000, the Finance Committee's recommendation is actually less money per student than this year's budget. Not much less, but it is less per student than this year's budget. Our recommendation, our request, is less than 0.8% of an increase per student. If you use Phil Quayle's guideline of 2.5%, doesn't that fall well within? I think it does, because our primary responsibility is to those students. The other dimension of the Finance Committee's proposal to take $129,000 out of stabilization, and I expect if the $70,000 is approved, they would want $199,000 taken out of stabilization. Frankly, it doesn't matter which pocket the money comes out of as long as the budget is funded. But that stabilization move does require a 2/3 vote. It's very important that we have this money to provide the education that our students need. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mr. Pasquale, please state your name and address, sir.
John Pasquale, 12 Hickory Lane. I personally favor what the Finance Committee recommended because I'd like to make a motion. Mr. Moderator, I move to change the North Reading Public School proposed 93 budget from $8,450,279,000 to the bottom line of $8,220,279,000. This motion is to address the public schools' financial numbers as listed in the 1992 town warrant. Mr. Moderator, I request that I have some slides prepared. I would like the town permission for 20 minutes, the same time that was granted to the school, to give my presentation, sir.
All right, let's first take your motion, Mr. Pasquale.
My motion.
The chair will interpret. We have before us already, before your motion, a main motion by the school department to raise and appropriate $8,450,279. On top of that, we have a motion to amend by the Finance Committee, which reduces the amount to $8,380,279. And now we have to figure out how we're going to handle your motion. Okay. And since we have a main motion and a motion to amend upon it, the chair will interpret your motion as being a motion to amend the amendment.
Yes, sir.
All right. Would you please provide the copy of your motion to the chair in writing? Now we come to the point of your request for 20 minutes for a presentation. Mr. Pasquale has requested a time period of 20 minutes to make a slide presentation on his motion to the meeting. Is there any discussion on Mr. Pasquale's request? All those in favor of granting Mr. Pasquale 20 minutes for a presentation, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The chair is in doubt. All those in favor, please raise your right hands. And would my tellers please go to work, Mr. Piero, Mr. Quayle, and Mr. Reitmeyer. Mr. Reitmeyer?
4.
24. Mr. 34. Mr. Quayle? 29. All those opposed, please raise your right hand. Mr. Reitmeyer? 19. Mr. Piero has 20. Mr. Quayle? 32. The vote is 87 in favor and 71 opposed. Mr. Pasquale, you have your 20 minutes.
Thank you for granting me the time to speak and to convey my thoughts and reasons for proposing to reduce the 1992 budget as stated in the warrant. I would like everyone listening to ponder for a moment on 4 questions. 1, how many of you understand how the numbers in the warrant were derived? 2, who were the decision makers and what knowledge and assumptions did they predicate the budget figures? 3, how does the budget relate to the stated goals, objectives, programs for the future direction and plans for the school system? 4, how does the quality of the school system connect to the vision and long-term objectives of our town? You see, these are the provocative questions I have been focusing my attention upon for the past few years, and not what the class sizes or the topics to be taught in the schools. My mind is focused on the big picture right now, which is, where is our beautiful little town with its natural and picturesque assets, schools, library, enviable community enterprises, and the many dedicated and concerned citizens headed in the 90s on an increasing $20 million budget, which appears nobody is controlling or worrying about for the future. Somebody has to stand up and say, who's protecting and preserving our precious town investments when there is constant turmoil and instability in the leadership at the top? I, John A. Pasquale, have chosen to be the one to stand. First of all, did everybody see the slide? There is no vision for our town. There is no vision for the school system. I will share with you my vision, which I had shown to the selectmen. Effective teamwork and committee performance, I'll leave you to judge. But what I see is 2 concentric circles going around, the school committee and the selectmen. In the center, we have the 2 most powerful people in the town, they being the superintendent and the town administrator, and it looks like 2 things are going to collide. Leadership in this town resides, in my mind, with appointed groups. So God bless the Hillview, God bless the library committee, God bless everybody that did with the school, kids sport, etc. Goals and objectives. We really lack accountability. There's no accountability for the goals and objectives I see. When I can go, quote, to a public hearing, folks, and there's only 25 people that have copies of this because they handed it out 4 minutes to me before, and they got their goals stated in it, but it's not in your warrant, and the numbers are exactly the same. There is a paradigm shift occurring in our town. For those that don't understand what paradigm, it's a Greek word. For the last 2 to 3 years, it's happening in America. But what I see happening is the following. We have constant in the middle here, where I'm pointing to, where it says administration and policy. Go to any meetings and everybody's trying to decide who's responsible for policy, who's administration. And yet what's coming on top is reforms. One of the reforms I see, in fact, that's coming here is we have a taxpayers association of people like Mr. Pasquale standing up. Then on the other extreme is the word accountability, and that really bothers me because some people, they're not even doing it now, so how are they going to be accountable in the future? Budget and overhead. Mr. Daly introduced a few new words, but I'm going to tell you there's a couple more. You heard micromanage and you heard fiscal. What we have going on in our town right now is called macromanagement. You're going to hear me use words like hidden factories and hidden reserves that are in the school budget. So I will say these are hidden factories, they're hidden reserves. We've had illustrations that I'll point out of poor contract negotiations, and we, the taxpayers, are paying the price. Consultants. In the budget, there are some funds put aside for consultants. In one case, I favor it. In another case, I cannot see why we have to go spend $8,000 to go get a consultant to tell us what we have to do with computers. We had a committee in the town. Fact of the matter is, we've got Lotus moving into town, and anybody knows we could go down there and talk to them, and they could give us an executive for 3 months to tell us what we need for computers. I'd like to share with you what I think is a quality and efficient school system, but the word I'm focusing on is overhead. Curricular assessment by the school committee, that's their particular job, and that's what they should be going out doing right now. Who's paying the bill? The voters. And we have some opportunities that we're not even capitalizing on. I'll give you a couple. But how can you when you have turmoil going on? We should have a business partnership council going on to advise some of the things not only with the selectmen but also with the school committee. We should be benchmarking leaders in the area. City of Newton spent $62 million on their school department. They must know what's going on. You go to Wareham, Mass., they have the high tech of the future. Can't get all the money for it. Citizen research groups. Ladies and gentlemen, let me stand here and tell you, when you only got 5 minutes at a school committee meeting of public participation once a month, you're never going to get any citizens, but there's a lot of talented citizens could be doing a lot of research. Please focus on the word vision, and I would encourage you to close your eyes and wonder what the vision you have for the school system of your town. But what's surrounded around there are all the words I've been hearing as I go to all the meetings. This is a popular one. Let town meeting decide. That's really exonerating our responsibilities. But nothing's connected. Unless we have a vision, how can we be talking about goals and objectives? We have to drive a stake in the ground. I'm not telling you you have to accept what I have on the slide, but I walk around with this in my head. I shared it with the town administrator, and he sees some of it, and some of the articles you see, we're moving in the right direction in the Board of Selectmen. I was going to take it to the school committee. Unfortunately, with all the chaos, I could never get on the committee for the agenda. That's my vision. I underlined some key words for you because you're looking at a person that has a hell of a lot of pride and sets very high standards. I'm very educated. I believe in the education system that we have here. We've got fine schools. We don't get value in return for the money we're spent, and that really annoys me. We're never going to have harmonious working relationships. It's something we could work towards. I think we need financial plans. But unless we have some vision, we're going to keep doing everything piecemeal, and that's a lot of what I see going on in the school committee that's happening at the same time. They don't have a vision where we're going with the schools. I didn't take this out of a textbook, ladies and gentlemen. I've been on a high-powered committee at the company I work for, studying education. This is big business and industry. There's 14 parameters there. There's only 6 of those that are on the goals and objectives of the school committee.